The ISO Mailbag Wednesday episode on Wednesday, July 6th, 2022. If you have a question for me that you'd like answered on one of these Mailbag Wednesday episodes, typically I answer two, maybe three questions each week, sometimes four if it's a really quick answer. But if you have a question, send it to our Gonzaga Nation SI social media channels, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, send it there. Send it to me, Dickau, Dickau at scorebooklive.com, or send it my way on Instagram, Dan Dickau 21, or excuse me, D Dickau 21, or Instagram, Dan Dickau 21. So lots of social media handles. You got to kind of figure out how to keep them straight. I'm not the best at social media, but it's a necessary evil these days. So let's jump right into it. First question of the day comes from Dennis from Santa Ynez, California. He is a former Gonzaga Bulldog. He's an alum, so thanks for that. But he asks, if UCLA, USC make the move to the Big 12, could you envision GU and perhaps another WCC school to the Pac-12? And this question came a few days ago, right when all that kind of insight or thoughts that UCLA, USC would be moving actually to the Big 10, not the Big 12. The Big 12 has kind of lost a few schools to the SEC in recent years. The Big 10 is the one that's making the huge push to really kind of expand their footprint. But that being said, with UCLA, USC absolutely moving in 2 years to the Big 10, I think you're going to see an absolutely different landscape in college athletics, and it's going to impact Gonzaga in some way, shape, or form. There's a couple different angles to take with this. There's a couple different angles to look. And I think this kind of spurs a bigger podcast show at some point about what would it look like if Gonzaga went to the Pac-12? What it would look like if Gonzaga went to the Mountain West? What would it look like if the WCC were to stay the same and Gonzaga stays in the WCC? What would it look like if Gonzaga were to move to a proposed Big East, which has been talked about? And so, just to answer Dennis's question about could envision GU perhaps another WCC school moving to the Pac-12, I do think that is a legitimate chance. I think there's definitely conversations going on right now within Pac-12 circles of how do we keep the Pac-12 together and how do we bring another power name or two to replace UCLA and USC. I mean, Gonzaga, I think to make that switch, I think you're only talking basketball. Just to be honest, I don't think you're talking any other sports. Maybe men's baseball, maybe women's basketball, because Gonzaga women's basketball has been pretty good. But from my understanding and what I know about the athletic department, with GU and its budget, I don't know if there's any way that you could do any sports other than potentially those three. And again, the biggest movers and drivers in college athletics financially are men's football, number one, hands down. Isn't even touched by anything else. Men's basketball is number two, simply based off of media deals and the NCAA tournament, the value that provides. But I think there is a chance that a WCC school and Gonzaga is being talked to right now by the proposed powers of the Pac-12. Now, I don't have any insider information. I have talked to a number of Pac-12 contacts that I have, both coaches and different things that absolutely value the Gonzaga name, the Gonzaga brand, what it would bring to them in regards to the basketball side of things. And they would love to see it happen. They would love to see it work. They think they would bring a ton of value. But first things first, Pac-12 has to figure out what the heck they're doing. I mean, you're seeing the top two schools, UCLA, USC, in the Pac-12 as far as media reach. UCLA is a dominant football program. At least they have been historically. It's a iconic brand on the football side. And then UCLA, iconic brand on the basketball side. You've now lost those. How do you not replace, because I don't think you can replace those, but how do you keep everything else that you have intact? Because you got to keep Arizona basketball, and I think you got to keep Oregon football, and you got to keep Washington football. I know they haven't been good lately, but historically they've been really good. In Washington and Seattle, there's so much money there, and it's a good media market. Oregon has that Nike connection with Phil Knight and then Nike money behind it. I think you have to keep those three together. Otherwise, you're kind of running the risk of the Pac-12 being gone. But that being said, I think if there were another school to leave the WCC alongside Gonzaga and move to the Pac-12, you got to kind of take a big picture look at who would it be? Well, BYU might make sense because they've got a national following, but they've already committed to go to the Big 12. Can they get out of that deal? Can they switch back to the Pac-12? Who knows? Or just switch to the Pac-12? Who knows? That's really difficult to tell. Could it be San Francisco because of their media market and being I believe, a alumni-rich tradition and a great school? Don't think so, because there's no football. Could it be USD, Southern California Presidents? They do have football, although it's not at the Pac-12 level. It's a 1AA. I don't think that makes sense. LMU, I don't think that makes sense. Portland, they don't have football. University of Pacific, I don't know if they have football or not. I'm just being honest. I don't know if they do. Santa Clara, Bay Area, which is great, right down the road from Stanford, right down the road from Cal, kind of fighting a lot of interest level for athletics in that area. Don't think they have football. So you're starting to kind of Pacific. I don't think have football. You're kind of looking at all these schools, and I don't know if there is another WCC school that makes sense to go to the Pac-12 because they don't have football. Would they make an exception to not having football, like I would expect or imagine they would make an exception for Gonzaga basketball to move to the Pac-12? It's hard to say. So then you start looking outside the box of WCC. You look at a Mountain West school like a Boise State, who's been traditionally really good at football, and their basketball program is on solid footing. Leon Rice doing a great job there. San Diego State, they've been a really good basketball program for a number of years. Their football program is pretty good. And then outside of that, where do you go? Fresno State? I don't know. I don't think Wyoming, I don't think Colorado State fits that mold of Pac-12 because you're more in that mountain region. So it's really hard to say. So Dennis, I know I kind of danced around it. There's a lot of different moving parts within all of this, but I will say this. I think college athletics within the next 3 years, completely different. And we're going to touch on that again in some in-depth dives to Gonzaga moving to other conferences in the near future. But I think college athletics as we know it is almost done. So thanks for the question, Dennis. Appreciate it. Second question comes from Tim in Spokane. NBA Summer League kicks off this week with games. Well, it actually kicked off. I'm just interrupting your question, Tim, but it actually kicked off a couple days ago with games down in California in San Francisco. But Tim asks, with Summer League kicking off, do you have any Summer League memories from when you played? Good question, Tim. Appreciate the sending on the question. Yeah, I've got 3 distinct Summer League memories for sure. And the first one would have been my first NBA Summer League. So I played Summer League 3 separate years, which is probably not normal now. Back when I was playing about 20 years ago, yeah, it was more normal where when you signed a first round deal, you were expected, unless you became a starter, and they didn't need you to play Summer League. They knew who you were, what your value was, the organization. You were typically expected to play Summer League for probably about 3 years. But going into my rookie year after being drafted, I was with the Hawks, and we played in the Boston Summer League, the Shaw Summer Pro League. I want to say it was my second or third Summer League game. We're playing New Jersey. They had I mean, it was the loaded New Jersey teams when they went to the finals, and Richard Jefferson had just come off his rookie year, and they were spotlighting Richard Jefferson in summer league to be their guy and really kind of give him as many opportunities as possible. But we played them in summer league, and I just remember I was always one of those guys that I would always screen and hold it. I'd elbow, I'd scratch, I'd claw, set a back pick when guys weren't looking, and something that John Stockton always talked to me about. And you know, I learned, if as a shooter, if you want shots, go be a great screener. Crack somebody, make a problem. Two guys go to figure out that problem, and then you're the guy that gets open. So I always kind of abided to those thoughts. But Richard Jefferson got tired of me constantly screening over and over and over again. And so it was a baseline out of bounds play. I went to set a back screen on Richard Jefferson, and he literally tackled me. He tackled me in summer league. And we went down to the ground. We were kind of wrestling around for a second. We both got ejected. So that was one of my first summer league games before my rookie year, is getting ejected. Richard Jefferson got ejected from summer league as well. So that was a memory. Second memory that I wanted to kind of talk about was going into my second year with the Atlanta Hawks, was going into LeBron's rookie year. He was the number one draft pick, obviously, with the Cavs. We played them in summer league. It would have been one of maybe second or third career pro game for LeBron. And you read all the articles, you hear the buzz, you see the buzz, you hear the hype, not knowing what to expect from who's the guy who's dubbed the next Kobe, the next MJ, the next great one. I mean, he was as good as could have imagined. Big, strong, skilled, unbelievable passer and willing passer. You could tell he couldn't shoot it yet, but the mechanics as far as his release were great. And that's one of the things with LeBron. He's so strong, and he doesn't always have to be on balance. His release is what's so pure as a shooter. And he's gotten better shooting it over the years. But playing against LeBron, full house, packed house, hot, sweaty, humid, muggy gym in Boston, it was a cool experience. I don't remember if we won or they won, but I do remember, after the game, like thinking, he's number one pick. He's legit. He is really good. I don't know. I don't remember what my stats were. I don't remember what his stats were. But all I do remember is thinking, man, he is going to be unbelievable. Lo and behold, he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. It's pretty cool to see. And the third and final memory that comes to mind quickly when I get a question like this from Tim is, so going into my third year in the NBA, I'm now with the Portland Trail Blazers. And that's, again, I talked about, I played summer league 3 years. So I'm with the Blazers after having been traded to the Blazers from the Atlanta Hawks halfway through my second year. We're having a pregame meeting in the locker room. Typical kind of chalk talk, scouting report, game plan, this, that, and the other. And I found it really odd that Coach Cheeks, who was the head coach at the time, was in the locker room. And that's not normal for summer league. The other coaches that are running it, I believe it was John Lawyer was the head coach for summer league that year, and then some of the other assistants were in there. And I remember after the meeting was over, it was time to go out on the floor, and Coach Cheeks stops me, walk out of the locker room, go to the hallway, go out and play the game, because it was at Salt Lake City Community College, because that's where the Blazers, we were playing in the Rocky Mountain Review Summer League. So he stops me and he says, Dan, we need to talk. And right there, my heart sank, because I know what that means. I'd been traded once, kind of had the feeling, kind of had the thought after he said, hold on, we need to talk. Well, you've been traded. And so right there, I was absolutely crushed as a young player, having been traded back to my hometown team, the team I dreamed of playing for, the Portland Trail Blazers. He had told me that I had been traded to the Golden State Warriors, and I didn't need to go out and play. I didn't need to go out on the court. And so that was a third summer league memory that I have. Not a good one, just a memory, something that, I will remember the disappointment, the frustration, but then also thinking to myself down the years later, that's one of the things that continue to drive me to work as hard as I could, because, I was disappointed in being traded from what I felt was a good opportunity, good place. And I wanted to make sure that moving forward, and not that I didn't before, but I never wanted to leave any stone unturned in being ready for when opportunity came. And lo and behold, about 6 months later, that opportunity came, because Golden State then traded me to Dallas no more than about maybe a month later. And then Dallas traded me to New Orleans. And because of all the hard work and preparation that I was putting in, I was ready when I got my chance. So 3 great memories from Summer League. So Tim, thank you for sending on that question. Appreciate it. Again, you have a question, send it our way. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and review on any of our social media channels, as well as, send us a comment. What do you want us to cover? What would you like to hear? We're putting together a ton of plans for preseason coverage as well as in-season coverage on Gonzaga Nation SI. So for the ISO and on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network, thanks for listening.